The glass walls of the luxury car dealership shined under the afternoon sun. Inside the showroom, everything looked perfect and expensive. The floors reflected the lights above, and the cars stood in silent rows like prizes meant for special people. Mira stepped inside slowly and felt the cold air brush her face. Her clothes were clean but simple, and her shoes showed signs of long walks. She kept her back straight even though her heart was beating fast. Mira was used to being ignored, but this place felt different. Every small sound echoed around her, and every glance felt heavier than usual. She had walked a long distance to reach the dealership, and had repeated her reason again and again in her mind. This visit mattered to her more than anyone here could understand. It was not about showing off or buying something big. It was about keeping a promise she had made to herself. As she moved forward, a few workers noticed her and then quickly looked away. One of them leaned toward another and whispered something that made both of them smile. Mira noticed but said nothing. She focused her eyes on a dark blue car standing in the center of the showroom. The surface was smooth and clear, and her reflection looked smaller than she felt inside. She stopped near the car and read the small details placed beside it. The words were neat and formal, and the price number looked unreal. Mira took a slow breath and reminded herself why she was here. Her hands were slightly cold, but her mind stayed clear. A voice broke the silence from behind her. The tone was sharp and carried a hint of impatience. A young salesman stood there with crossed arms and a smile that did not reach his eyes. He looked at her shoes and then at her clothes before finally meeting her face. "Can I help you?" he asked. Mira turned calmly and nodded. She said she wanted to ask about the model and the payment options. Her voice was polite and steady even though her chest felt tight. The salesman let out a short laugh. He pointed at the car and said the price was very high. He added that this was not the kind of place people usually came to browse. His words were smooth, but his meaning was clear. Mira nodded again and said she understood. She told him she still wanted to know. Her answer surprised him, and for a moment he did not speak. Then he smiled again, but this time it felt colder. Before he could say anything more, another voice entered the space. It was calm and firm, and carried authority. A young man stood a few steps away watching the scene quietly. He wore a simple dark suit, and his posture showed confidence without effort. He asked if there was a problem. The salesman straightened immediately and explained that he was only saying the car might not be suitable. He said it politely, but his eyes avoided Mira. The young man looked at Mira and then back at the salesman. He asked if she had said it was out of her reach. The salesman hesitated and replied that it was obvious. Mira felt heat rise to her face, but she did not look down. She said she had not come to be judged. Her words were calm but strong, and a few people nearby slowed down to listen. The young man told the salesman to leave them alone. The order was simple and final. The salesman hesitated for a second and then walked away. The young man introduced himself as Leo and said he owned the dealership. His tone was respectful and his eyes held curiosity instead of doubt. Mira felt surprised, but she returned the greeting and said her name. Leo asked why she was interested in this car. His question was genuine and did not carry the same edge as the others. Mira took a moment before answering. She said her father loved cars and taught her how engines worked when she was still very young. She said he believed cars were built for people who respected effort, not just wealth. Leo listened carefully and nodded slowly. He then asked what her father did. Mira paused only briefly before answering. She said her father used to build cars. She added that he worked with his hands every day before people like that salesman decided who belonged in places like this. Her words filled the space and silence followed. Leo's expression changed, and surprise crossed his face. Something in her answer clearly reached him. Mira did not notice the quiet looks from others around them. She only knew that she had spoken the truth. She did not know that her words had opened a door to a story far bigger than a single car or a single day. The silence between them felt heavy and slow. Leo looked at Mira with new eyes. He was no longer seeing her clothes or her place in the room. He was hearing her words again inside his mind. Something about her calm truth unsettled him deeply. He had grown up around wealth and power. He had learned early how people judged others without thought. Leo asked her to walk with him. Mira hesitated for a moment and then agreed. They moved away from the center of the showroom. Employees pretended to stay busy but watched quietly. The air felt different now. Mira sensed it but did not let it change her posture. They stopped near a row of older models displayed near the back. Leo told her these cars were not for sale. He said they were kept for memory and history. Mira looked at them closely. Her eyes softened as she studied the metal and shape. She recognized details others would miss. She said her father once worked on a model like this. She said he used to come home tired but proud. She said his hands were always rough but careful. Leo listened without interrupting. Each word felt honest and clear. Leo admitted that his father had owned factories years ago. He said the business grew fast. He said success came with hard choices. He spoke slowly, as if choosing words carefully. Mira did not respond right away. She waited and let him continue. He said that workers were often invisible to owners. He said he had been taught to look forward, not backward. He said maybe that lesson had cost more than money. Mira finally spoke. She said people are never invisible to those who love them. She said her father never blamed the world. He only believed in dignity. Leo felt a strange pressure in his chest. He remembered his childhood clearly. He remembered quiet dinners and busy mornings. He remembered never seeing the factory floor. That memory felt heavy now. Mira asked if she could sit inside the blue car again. Leo agreed without hesitation. He opened the door himself. Mira stepped inside slowly and placed her hands on the steering wheel. Her expression changed. It was not excitement, but familiarity. She said her father once told her that a car should feel honest. She said this one did. Leo smiled slightly at her words. He asked what happened to her father. Mira answered without drama. She said he lost his job during a company shift. She said he searched for work but age made it harder. She said he taught her skills instead of bitterness. Leo listened and felt shame rise quietly. He told her that his company had once closed a factory suddenly. He said he had signed papers without thinking of faces. He said he never imagined the reach of those decisions. Mira looked at him steadily. She said choices always reach someone. The words stayed between them like a mirror. Leo did not look away. He accepted them. A manager approached carefully and asked if everything was all right. Leo nodded and told him to make tea. The manager left quickly. Mira noticed how different the tone felt now. She noticed how power shifted with a name. They sat near a small table by the window. The city outside moved quickly. Inside the space felt still. Leo asked Mira what she wanted from today. She answered simply. She said she wanted respect. She said she wanted people like her father to be remembered. Leo took a deep breath. He said he could not change the past. He said he could choose the future. Mira listened but did not smile. She had heard promises before. Leo surprised her by standing up. He said he wanted to show her something. They walked toward a door marked private. He opened it and led her into a quiet room filled with photos. The walls showed workers standing proudly beside machines. The faces were older. Some looked tired. Some looked strong. Leo said these were from the early days. He said the company started with builders, not owners. He said he had forgotten that truth. Mira stepped closer to the photos. Her eyes stopped on one picture. She froze. She pointed slowly. She said that was her father. Leo stared at the image in shock. He walked closer and read the name below. His breath caught. He realized the story was no longer distant. It was standing right in front of him. Mira said her father never spoke of this photo. She said he believed pride did not need proof. Leo felt something break inside him quietly. He finally understood why her words had shaken him. He looked at Mira and said he owed her father more than respect. He said he owed him action. Mira did not answer right away. She only looked at the photo once more. She said if he truly meant that, then he would know what to do. Her voice was calm and firm. Leo nodded slowly. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on him. Outside the room, the dealership continued as usual. Inside, Leo felt changed. He knew this meeting was not an accident. He knew the story was only beginning. The room felt smaller after the discovery. Leo stood still and looked at the photo again. Mira watched him closely but did not speak. She had lived with this truth for years. For her, it was memory, not shock. For Leo, it felt like the ground had shifted under his feet. Leo asked about her father in a softer voice. Mira said her father never talked much about his past work. She said he believed the work itself mattered more than recognition. She said he taught her that respect starts from how people treat each other every day. Leo nodded slowly. He said his father used to say similar things, but business had changed that voice over time. He said money had become louder than values. Mira replied that money often speaks first, but truth stays longer. They left the photo room together. The noise of the dealership returned as they stepped back inside. People moved around them without knowing what had just happened. Mira felt a strange calm settle in her chest. She had not planned any of this. She had only spoken honestly. Leo asked Mira if she would stay a little longer. She agreed. They sat again near the window. The tea arrived untouched for several minutes. Leo stared outside as if searching for words in the moving traffic. Leo finally spoke and said he wanted to hear more about her life now. Mira said she worked small jobs and studied at night. She said she fixed machines when people needed help. She said she learned patience early. Leo listened carefully. He said her father would be proud. Mira answered that he already was. She said pride did not need money. Leo took a deep breath and said he wanted to make something right. He said the company had plans to open a new service center. He said it could become a place where skilled workers were trained and treated fairly. He said he wanted people like her father to lead such spaces. Mira looked at him steadily. She asked if this was a promise or a thought. Leo said it was a decision. He said meeting her had reminded him why the company existed in the first place. Mira did not smile yet. She said actions mattered more than words. Leo agreed. He said he wanted her help. He said he wanted her to tell him what workers needed most. Mira thought carefully before answering. She said workers needed respect first. She said they needed safety and fair chances. She said they needed to be seen as humans, not numbers. Leo wrote notes quietly. He said he had never heard it explained so clearly. Mira replied that simple truths were often ignored. A short silence followed. Mira then asked why he had stepped in earlier instead of letting the salesman continue. Leo said he recognized the look on her face. He said he had seen it once before in his own mother when she was judged unfairly. That answer surprised Mira. She asked about his mother. Leo said she had grown up poor. He said she taught him kindness before business lessons replaced it. He said he had forgotten her words until today. Mira nodded. She said people often forget when life becomes easy. Leo accepted that quietly. A phone rang nearby and an employee hurried past them. The world continued moving. Mira realized that this meeting was already changing things, even if slowly. Leo asked Mira if she would return the next day. He said he wanted to introduce her to the planning team. He said her voice mattered. Mira hesitated. She had never been invited into spaces like that. She finally said she would come, but not as a symbol. She said she wanted to be treated as herself. Leo promised that. As she stood to leave, Leo walked her to the door. The same salesman stood nearby watching silently. His expression had changed. He avoided her eyes. Mira walked past him without stopping. She felt no anger now. She felt stronger than before. Outside the sun had lowered and the air felt warmer. Mira paused at the steps. Leo thanked her for coming. She replied that she only came to speak the truth. As Mira walked away, Leo remained standing at the entrance. He watched her disappear into the street. He knew this day would stay with him forever. Inside the dealership, Leo turned back toward his office. He felt a sense of responsibility heavier than any contract he had signed. He knew he could not undo the past, but he could shape what came next. Mira walked home slowly. Her feet felt tired, but her mind felt light. She thought of her father and the quiet pride he carried. She knew she had honored him today without planning to. Neither of them knew exactly how the future would unfold. But both understood that a line had been crossed and a new path had opened. Mira returned the next morning with the same steady walk and the same simple clothes. The dealership looked even brighter in daylight and even more intimidating. She paused at the entrance and reminded herself that she was not there to impress anyone. She was there to speak for the kind of people who were never invited into rooms like this. Leo was already waiting near the front desk. He greeted her with a calm nod and offered a quiet smile. Mira noticed that he looked tired, like he had not slept much. She understood that some realizations do not let a person rest. Leo guided her past the showroom and into a meeting room with a long table and a screen on the wall. 3 people sat inside with tablets and folders. They looked up when Mira entered and their faces showed surprise. Mira felt the old pressure rise again, but she did not step back. Leo introduced Mira by name and said she was there to help build a better service center and training program. One of the planners asked what experience she had. The question was polite, but carried a hidden doubt. Mira answered simply and said she had fixed machines since she was young and worked wherever she could. She said she knew what it felt like to be judged before speaking. She said she also knew what workers needed when the job was hard and the pay was small. The room went quiet for a moment. The planners exchanged looks and then began to listen more carefully. Leo asked Mira to describe the first thing she would change if she could. Mira said she would change the way people were treated on day 1. She said training should begin with respect and safety and clear rules that protect workers. She spoke slowly so every word landed. She said workers should be paid fairly for learning and not used as cheap labor. She said tools and equipment should be maintained so people do not get hurt. She said schedules should be predictable so families can breathe. One planner tried to shift the topic to budgets and timelines. Mira nodded and said budgets matter, but trust matters more. She said people will stay loyal to a place that protects them. She said the cost of constant turnover is higher than the cost of doing the right thing. Leo watched her speak and felt both proud and ashamed. He realized how easy it had been to sit behind numbers and never see the human part. He asked the planners to write everything down. They did. When the meeting ended, Leo asked Mira to walk with him to the back workshop area. The workshop was busy with technicians moving around lifts and tools. Mira noticed how some workers kept their eyes down when managers passed. She recognized that habit well. Leo stopped near a workbench and called the floor manager over. He asked how workers were selected for training and promotion. The manager gave a neat answer about performance and targets. Mira listened and then spoke calmly. Mira said performance is not only speed. Mira said it is also care and quality and how a person supports the team. Mira said some workers are quiet and skilled but never noticed because they do not speak loudly. Mira said those workers deserve a fair way to grow. The manager looked uncomfortable but nodded. Leo asked him to create a clear system for training and promotion with written steps. He said it would be reviewed by him personally. The manager agreed quickly. As they walked further, Mira saw a young mechanic struggling with a heavy tool. Mira stepped in without thinking and adjusted the setup so it became safer. The mechanic thanked her quietly. Leo watched and understood something important. Mira did not just talk about respect. She practiced it with her hands and her attention. She noticed small things that made work easier. She treated workers like people instead of problems. Leo asked Mira if she would consider leading a small pilot program for the new training center. Mira hesitated and looked at the floor for a brief moment. She had never imagined being offered leadership in a place like this. Mira said she would do it if the goal stayed real. Mira said she would not be used as a story for the company to look good. Mira said she wanted real changes that workers could feel. Leo agreed without arguing. He said he would put it in writing. He said she would have the power to say no to anything that felt dishonest. Later that afternoon, Leo invited Mira to his office. The office was clean and quiet with large windows and framed awards. Mira did not stare at the awards. She stared at a small photo on the shelf. It was a photo of Leo as a child beside a woman with gentle eyes. Leo noticed her looking and said that was his mother. He said she worked 2 jobs when he was young and still had the strength to smile. He said he promised her he would never forget where he came from. Mira nodded and said promises are tested when life becomes comfortable. Leo accepted that truth. He opened a folder and slid it across the desk. Inside was a plan for the new service center and training program. It included better pay for trainees and safety rules and clear steps for promotion. It also included a fund for former factory workers who had been affected by closures. Leo said he had spent the night reviewing old records. Leo said he found a list of workers from the factory that closed years ago. Leo said Myra's father was on it. Leo said the company never offered any support at the time. Mira felt a tightness in her throat, but she kept her face steady. She said her father never asked for pity. She said he only wanted dignity. Leo said dignity was exactly what they would give. He said he wanted to meet her father if she allowed it. Mira thought for a long moment. She finally agreed. That evening Mira brought Leo to her small home. Her father sat on a simple chair near the window. His hair was gray and his hands were still rough. When he stood to greet Leo, he moved with quiet strength. Leo introduced himself and said he recognized him from an old photo. Myra's father looked surprised but stayed calm. Leo apologized with honest words and no excuses. He said he was sorry for what the company did and for what it failed to do. Myra's father listened and then spoke softly. He said the past cannot be lifted like a machine part. He said it can only be faced. He said he did not want revenge. He wanted respect for the people who built the world quietly. Leo nodded and said that was why he was there. He said he wanted to rebuild trust one step at a time. He said he wanted Myra's father to visit the training center when it opened. He said the workers should meet someone who carried real pride. Myra's father looked at Mira and then back at Leo. He said he would come if the workers were treated well. Leo promised they would be. As Leo left the home, he felt a strange calm. He realized that being stunned was not the end. It was the beginning of responsibility. Mira watched him walk away and felt something new inside her. It was not victory and it was not revenge. It was hope built from truth and steady action. Mira knew the world would still judge people like her. But she also knew that sometimes one honest sentence can change a powerful life. In the weeks that followed, the dealership began to change in small visible ways. Workers were greeted by name. Training schedules became clear. Safety checks became strict. Mira led the pilot program with quiet confidence. Leo did not turn the story into a speech. He kept showing up and listening. Myra's father visited the workshop one day and spoke to the trainees. He told them that pride comes from doing the job right and treating others well. Mira watched the young workers listen with bright eyes. She felt the promise she carried finally become real. The insult at the dealership had tried to make her feel small. Her answer about her father had done the opposite. It had forced truth into a room that lived on appearances. It had stunned a young billionaire into seeing what money had hidden. And it had opened a path where respect could finally walk first.